So, your violin is A440, then 5 notes down is a D. This is the D, 1 note above middle C, then G, the G right below middle C, and then E, and I'm going in that direction because we always do A, D, G, and E, and we use a Pythagorean tuning on instruments, which for beginners it's not something you need to know, but eventually you'll do hopefully some teaching, once you get more advanced, some Pythagorean tuning rather than just basic tuning. So if we flip around here and look, I've got it. I'm not trying to advertise this, but this is the app I use. You can use this on any smart device, but this ClearTune is a really good tuner. There's a lot of tuners out there though, and there's also ones that you can just buy and clip-on tuners. Any of those will work, but you want something that will give you that will listen to you and then tell you how many cents off you are from being right in tune. This one has a little green dot, so when I play an A, see how it lights up green if it's in tune? And I'm right on the cents. Now, what I'm going to do is lower it down. Generally, you'll be flat. Now see what it looks like? So what if you're just a little bit flat? Take your fine tuner. When it's under your chin, you're going to turn it to the right or down to the floor. And give it one nice big turn. And now I play again, see how close, and another turn. And we're there almost. Let's do a half a turn. So play around with your fine tuners. Usually I find one big turn does 1 cent at a time. A half a turn will do half a cent. Now, so we've got A. Now, let's do D. Well, my D is in tune, but I don't have fine tuners. It's a good idea on a student instrument or even, well, with the new strings that we have, I think fine tuners on every string is probably a good idea just because they're super hard to get in tune with a peg on the new strings that we have nowadays with all the nylon core and polyester core, and steel core string is not as difficult to get in tune here, but some of those really stretchy strings are hard to get in tune with a peg. But I don't have a fine tuner here, but then play your D. Ignore that thing on my phone. Oh, D. Now if it was out of tune, then you would do the same thing with your fine tuner. Tune it up. If you check your strings and you find that one of them is sharp, it may be because one of the pegs has completely released. So I'm going to play with this just a little bit. Oh, my E peg is now, E is now a less than a G. So when I do that, listen to what happens to the A. Whoa, it's now very sharp. So if you play on your instrument and you're like, oh wow, my G is, so listen to the G now. My G is really sharp. Before you tune an instrument that has a sharp string, check your other strings because it may be that something is flat. And my E is now a G. So these pegs are tapered, kind of like our fingers are, and the reamed part inside the scroll is also tapered, so it's thicker here and thinner here. So the ebony, if you have ebony or rosewood or boxwood, seats into your peg box. So you can't just like turn this up and expect it to stay. See how that will just, if I just turn it, it just comes right back. And I really like wood pegs. I think if you know how to tune and if they're adjusted correctly, they work like amazingly. And I think the thing that people fall into problems with is that these pegs aren't, your pegs on your instrument aren't adjusted. If you have a really inexpensive instrument or it hasn't been hand adjusted by someone, often they'll crack and they'll pop, and they need some peg compound on them, especially if you live in an area where there is humidity. If you're in a dry area, it doesn't need it so much. Winter to summer, you're going to get different kinds of swelling in your maple as opposed to the ebony or the rosewood, and sometimes the pegs will get stuck or they'll just release. I know here in Texas, sometimes if we have a really hot day and my air conditioning hasn't been turned on or something through the day, I'll come to my cello especially, and I'll find that a peg is released. Or if you bump it, it will release. So the idea on a peg is that you're seating that peg inside the peg box. So as you turn it up, you need to push on it and turn at the same time. And you'll kind of get a sense of when it hooks into the peg box, you'll feel it hook into there. Now, most players, and it's hard sometimes for beginners to do that, you'll be in position and you'll do it with your finger and barely turn it. See how now we're at B flat. So I'm barely turning that peg. It's not like guitar where you have to turn it a bunch to get a half step. Violin strings are usually one-on-one, so for every, and I'm at C, almost a D, E flat open. Now it's not seated anymore. So if you need to come down and go like this, I'm left-handed, so this left-handed works well for me when I'm playing, but a lot of people it doesn't. So you can take it on your lap, go like this, come down just a little bit, push in as you go up, and click and pizzicato the string. And never go above the string or you will break it. So I'm gently pushing in. Don't push so hard that you break off your neck. I think it would be hard to do that actually, but as a kid I did break my scroll by trying to tune my A peg. But I think too it was an old violin that belonged to my grandmother, so it wasn't in. Oh, I went too far. I talked and went too far. So I'm going to take my fine tuner and tune it down. So just keep pizzicatoing. Pizzicato isn't as accurate as a bow, but it'll get you close. There we are. Now, then check it with your bow. Okay. And now see how my A went back in tune? So when a string has released, it will cause the other strings to go sharp. And then you can go on. It's not picking me up here. Sharp, you could take your finger and kind of just stretch it to the side just a little bit, and that will usually get it to go down. And then there's G. All of the pegs are the same. If you have a peg that's released, make sure you never tune a peg, if it's released. Okay, I'm just going to do it. I'll take the bullet, I'll bite the bullet. here's my A peg, it's released, and my A is right down here. Never just turn that peg without knowing where your string tune is, and never do it without a tuner unless you've got a good ear. And I'm pushing on this side, and I'm pushing on this side. And I'm doing that for the video. Actually, what I would do usually is just this. So I've got one finger hooked over the scroll and the other one here. So that's pulling these fingers together and it's pushing the peg in. Wow. Now I'm a little sharp, so I could take my fine tuner back off. I messed up my E string by tuning. So there's a beginning tuning. Now let's see where we at on time. I think I'll save that and we'll do a string change in the next one.